Want your brand to be seen and be remembered? Effective campaigns need both. JCDecau's high-quality billboard sites in premium locations nationwide offer brands powerful and visible stages for emotive, impactful and influential storytelling. Find out how JCDecau can help your brand be seen and be remembered at www.beseenberemembered.co.nz. Nau mai, hoki mai, kia fold, e mihi ne, ko Duncan Grieve, tōku ingoa. This is the second of two parts because even though I said in part one this is a slow news week, there were just also two distinct strands that I really wanted to discuss, including like the sort of, and I'm in grave danger here of perpetuating the thing I seek to critique, but the way that Epstein has been everywhere, I just thought I need to talk about what the hell's going on here. And Anna Rafiti-Connell, welcome to the fold. I couldn't think of anyone better to discuss this weird situation with.
I thought you were going to say I couldn't think of anyone else to discuss the situation.
Maybe true. Can it be both?
Yeah, it can, because I have obviously been following it, but also gone down a million nerdy rabbit holes about it.
So we're going to talk about basically why Epstein is suddenly everywhere, including all through the mainstream kind of news political agenda in and outside of the US, and what it says about the relationship between politics and news media and social media, and if that's starting to kind of flip on its head somehow in quite a profound way. And we'll think about it a little bit in the local context. And we might also hit on a few other stories, including the astronomer CEO, just an irresistible clip. And again, like that's one of those things where like I'm sure there's been like 1,000 10 out of 10 dunks out the back of that, and I've seen like none of them. So I just want someone to tell me what I'm missing, because sometimes it's hard not to be on social media, especially when you nominally discuss it professionally for a job. Also, Lucy Blackiston signing to the William Morris Agency, WME,
amazing.
as reported by Deadline. What does that mean? And finally, we'll just nod at our new series. Now you can tell us what's going on with that. But welcome. Looking forward to talking about it with you.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
I was prompted to do this because, like I said, I'm not on social media beyond using LinkedIn for self-promotion and sharing jobs. But so I'm just looking at like the New York Times and my kind of bundle of newsletters from a combination of institutional and creator media, and suddenly the Epstein story is everywhere, to the point where I think when I sort of snapped yesterday when. You can tell what's happening with a story by how long it gets to live at the top of a news app. And the New York Times had this like beautifully laid out, fascinating, I'd say probably 2,500 word story about the relationship between Epstein and Trump atop its homepage for all of Sunday in New Zealand, so all of Saturday in the US, and even today, it's the second block down of the homepage. It's a very substantial piece with a couple of related reports about it. So it's obviously driving tremendous traffic. But the thing that's wild to me is like this man died in 2019, and as far as I know, like literally nothing substantial has happened to change the fundamentals of this story, apart from the fact that the Wall Street Journal had what amounts to a scooplet in terms of a sort of little drawing
from Trump,
which Trump disputes the point of a defamation suit, which the fact of his disputing it doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. Obviously, we know that in Trump world, all things are possible, but it doesn't seem to remotely suggest that it should just be everywhere, because it feels everywhere. What's going on here, Anna?
So it has been boiling away online for quite a while, certainly a couple of weeks at least, before sort of the mass media coverage over the weekend, and there's been a few kind of sort of conversations or kind of appearances where various people in various government departments have talked about releasing the files.
The Epstein files.
The Epstein files.
Like it's some big dossier that will change everything.
Yeah, and even though I think it's the Attorney General's office has sort of come out and said there's not a big list of clients here that Epstein was blackmailing. Essentially what has happened is the MAGA community online, Trump's supporters, have become totally obsessed with the Epstein files. I mean, Epstein conspiracy theorists have been around certainly since Epstein died, because there was a huge amount of conspiracy around whether or not he killed himself or whether he was offed, right? So it's perfect fodder for a conspiracy theory community. And then I think fundamentally at the heart of the MAGA obsession with it, so this is Trump's kind of own supporter base essentially turning against Trump and demanding that the files be released. At the heart of it is that it's a story around exactly what that base hate, which is, government secrets being kept from the public, elites being protected. So it's total catnip for them, and Trump has found himself on the wrong side of it. He's sort of almost become quite old-fashioned about what is news and what isn't news and what matters and what doesn't. And he sort of is almost a little bit perplexed by why people are so interested in it. I mean, there's undoubtedly a history between Trump and Epstein. It's undoubtedly probably pretty,
Yeah, I mean, that's what this New York Times story...
Yeah, 15-year history, right?
And the thing that was, I guess, that shocked me about that, and it feels very instructive in terms of what you're saying, was that I don't think a single piece of it was not already in the public domain. It was one of those things, and it was it's New York Times, so it's beautifully written and arranged and so on. But fundamentally, it was like a glorified Wikipedia story, just drawing a bunch of things and synthesizing them. And what surprised me, I guess, about that is that this is like the elite media institution essentially almost throwing up its arms and going, God, this is what you guys are interested in. We'll give you like a very kind of bougie version of it. And it kind of subliminally says, like, we're not in control of the agenda anymore. Like, if the drums beat loud enough, and I'm not trying to say that everyone doesn't do that. We know when something's trending, like, obviously this is trying to CEO things are part of that, but there typically there's something new, and not just everyone's really like kind of heating up about this. Now, obviously underneath that, you've got, is there a schism within MAGA? Is Trump finally losing control of his creation? Which that is material, that is news. But the actual relationship between the two, that's the thing that buzzed me out, is that there felt like this element of, we've started to cede control here.
Yeah. And look, I think it is a absolutely gorgeous boiling cauldron of so many of the kind of challenges and stuff that people are grappling with around media and politics and social media. I mean, it really is, I think my theory is that the media in America got it totally wrong last time Trump was elected, right? They were patronizing. They vastly underestimated what drove people to vote for him, and they vastly underestimated him.
We're talking about 2016 election.
Yeah, 2016. The media stood on their moral high horse. The institutional, I'm going to do this in air quotes, I don't know if it's going to turn up in the video, but elite media.
I hope that gets clipped in forever, just as Hoskins does.
Basically, we're kind of like, well, we know best and we're going to be right about this. And I think they've learned that that's not the case, that if it's even possible for more ground to have slipped from out beneath, kind of the old models, that has happened again. Part of me thinks that this is them getting down and dirty, that this is them And look, don't get me wrong, there's something very troubling when both the Democrats and the creme de la creme of American media, who are meant to stand for something around holding on to truth in a post-truth era, right? I sort of think that, yes, it's receding, possibly it's inevitable, but I also wonder whether there is a little bit of fighting fire with fire. And, I mean, Trump bred this. Trump made this landscape. You know, you cannot have your 150 Big Mac dinner at the White House banquet and eat it too. Like, he built this world, right? And now he's finding out that the values that his voters adhere to are not as malleable as perhaps his kind of approach to politics around what is convenient, what's capturing his attention at this particular point in time. They genuinely believe that there are vast conspiracy theories or vast kind of amounts of information being kept from the American public, and that it is all a big fat elite conspiracy theory to keep them down. So he's finding out that, like, you can't just decide that conspiracy theories about the election being stolen are okay, but conspiracy theories about you palling around with Jeffrey Epstein are not.
It's so interesting, right? Because you've got this situation which, like, he's been able to, on everything from Iran to Russia, like quite enormous geopolitical issues, just flip and bring everyone with him. Mm-hmm. And those seem like orders of magnitude more important than, you know, the sort of, you know, sordid but largely also just kind of titillating conspiracy theories around a disgraced financier. And yet one of those things is kind of in scope, and another is actually this is more powerful. And I think you're right that there's something about the way that, you know, the sort of Trump drain the swamp theory of what's going on amongst the coastal elites, both political, academic, media, that if he sort of seeks to align himself with them on some level by saying there is no story here, that's actually the lie. You have to believe that there's something being kept from you, and you know, that's a tension. Once you're in government, you have the power to release something, even if there's nothing in it. Then you're going to be held to account on it in a different way. But it's a
I can completely see, like, looking at it, it's kind of like, if, you know, my half-cocked theory about sort of a switch in tactics from both media and Democrats in America, you know, there is something slipping away. There is something being ceded. I mean, to be honest, I think there's also an element of hopium about it amongst the Democrats and institutional media, and that this is a bit of a chink in Trump's armor. Like, no matter how many times he says there's nothing there, the fact that his own supporters are completely obsessed with it and have turned against him around it, it's kind of like, oh, maybe this man does have, you know, an Achilles heel, because it genuinely seems like he doesn't. He seems to be able to just, like, lurch from one thing to another, say anything, do anything.
Reality is what he says it is.
Totally.
And I think that, you know, if you've been following, as I'm sure you have, the sort of the full-on introspection of the kind of progressive, and the establishment Democrats over the past sort of 6-8 months, there's been this profound sense of, like, what can we do? There's all these kind of weird, like, oh, who's our Joe Rogan? Like, everything feels like this is not going to work. And so, you know, I think that whenever something rears up that feels like it might say that there could be an end to this, or you know, a limit to that reality shaping power, that's obviously something that you're going to seize upon. But again, you go, like, well, you know, if you're the institutional media, which is, even if it feels like values aligned with the Democratic Party, it's a distinct thing and needs to take care to endorse that. If it sort of starts to subliminally feel like it's profoundly aligned there, that's it's I mean, and it's always been true to an extent, but yeah, there's something about that story, and the fact it was everywhere. Like, Capital Brief, which is like my favorite, Australian business news startup. Really strongly recommend a subscriber to its daily newsletter. It's free, but its Friday edition was about Epstein and Trump, and you're like, and that's a long way. That's a long way. And here we are talking about it, right? But it is just this kind of there's something about the sense that the great kind of hive mind of social being able to now, by seizing upon something, just kind of plop it down into the mainstream news agenda, irrespective of foundation, and not just isn't this interesting what's happening on social media, but we have to just consider this on its own terms, even if there's no new news about it, is wild. And what's the sort of local equivalent of it? Like, do you have a kind of a sense of how that kind of form of inversion is operating in this political media economy?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think there have been some. So this is, not necessarily original thinking, but I've certainly thought about it a lot. I mean, there has been some great commentary already around Te Pāti Māori and the Green Party, I guess, using Parliament and using select committee hearings as an environment for creating social media content or social media moments, and you can see why.
Well, it's an amazing set, right? Because you've got the green leather and the wood paneling, and it's very familiar. So when you see someone doing something that's kind of electrifying that environment, or that feels sort of like it's popping some of like you see the traditional way to use it is to make the most boring, weird, yelly speeches that sort of make your brain turn off. If you see someone doing something dynamic in there, it kind of it's pretty amazing. I sort of think about it as maybe descending from, and I'm sure it predates it, but Chloe Swarbrick's OK Boomer comment to Todd Muller, which I don't think was even meant to be audible. Like, I genuinely don't think that she was doing it in that way, but that went around the world. And I think what it said was, you bring something, whether it's kind of cultural or zeitgeisty, or you just nail something in that environment, you can get a dividend in terms of the virality of that moment like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the most watched video from the New York Times, on their beautiful, beautiful homepage with their beautiful, beautiful videos, is the Hana Rafiti Maipi Clark moment in Parliament, right? So you get that kind of insight into what people react and respond to online. And, I mean, Te Pāti Māori did this during the election, kind of a campaign that sort of took people by surprise somehow. And it's because it wasn't made for you, It was made for a completely different audience. Do I love it? No, I don't, because it's essentially, it feels like the very manifestation of amusing ourselves to death. We're just short clipping our way through our lives, and all of the kind of meaning and significance and context of these kind of things is just totally lost. At the same time, that is also how a large number of people are kind of experiencing the world and getting their news and information. I mean, there has to be substance behind the style, right?
I think that's the thing that and I don't think that's a sort of a closed question. If you looked at this through a kind of classic audience funnel technique, where you just need to grab someone's attention to get them sort of vaguely interested in your brand, and if you're a politician, your brand is yourself and your party, those viral moments are top of the funnel.
Yep.
And further down, maybe it ends with someone standing as an MP, above that as becoming a member of your party, above that attending a meeting, whatever you want to kind of, however you want to understand it. but there is this kind of sense that the information architecture of a politician's operating environment's changed so radically that you can't, where before you come up with a piece of policy or a response to the party in power's kind of idea, and maybe you work on a hooky line or a press release. Now the whole thing starts in a really different place. I think the thing that's kind of it makes sense that you would change it, and so long as ultimately it does ladder up to this is a meaningful, you can affect meaningful change somewhere at the bottom of the funnel, even if the viral clip or the kind of form submission to a select committee doesn't actually have that much. Doesn't have that much heat versus light.
I mean, I think it's being deployed across the political spectrum, obviously, all over the world, because the ACT are also doing it.
Like the thing, David Seymour kind of walking into the John Campbell interview and shooting the whole shooting of the thing. Like ACT arguably has done this better than everyone. They don't necessarily do it quite so much in terms of the staging ground thing, but the way that they're deploying social media is quite extraordinary in terms of just the cadence and the ferocity and just how much you can just see it on the numbers on YouTube, like very frequently dwarf what like I'm sure that the film of the John Campbell interview versus the John Campbell interview itself, the ACT Party version of it got more eyes than
probably.
And that's wild.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like this beautiful, delicious meat to people who are like, I don't trust the media. Both Winston Peters and David Seymour make the most of that kind of point of view. So here's what really happened. Here's the alternative view. Here's the truth. I think the thing that fundamentally irks me about it is, and don't get me wrong, I'm also, very admiring. The times have changed, clever, all the rest of it, is the media, the institutional media, are regularly beaten around the ear holes with the trust stick, and that being a metric that our government now cares about in terms of RNZ and TVNZ. And yet never stop, really, well, they probably do, but they'll never admit it, never stop to think about how their own actions, which are fundamentally undermining the trust in institutions, like politics, like Parliament, there's a symbiotic relationship between the two, right? Yeah. So it's great for their voting base. It's definitely, I think, yes, in instances it is going to funnel down into, voter behaviour and all of that kind of stuff, certainly with certain demographics and bases. It doesn't mean it's good for us.
No, and I think that's the sort of tricky thing, right? And it is totally a politics-wide, parliament-wide problem in that everyone picks an institution that they don't like, and when they go to war with that, that's a righteous cause. For ACT, it might be institutional media and academia. For Te Pāti Māori, it might be the Electoral Commission and the Charities Commission, something like that. But they all have, the Greens might not love the Treasury. Like, they've all got institutions that they view with distrust, and where their cause is righteous. But if you look at it, what it does to the overall relationship of trust or distrust towards institutions more broadly, it's just going to keep chiseling away. The thing that's kind of a bit chilling to me is the extent to which once with institutional media not only being disintermediated but becoming a sort of an esoteric side habit for like 15% of the population, which I don't think is necessarily where we're at, but it can almost feel like we're walking that way.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
There used to be really, really powerful disincentives for making shit up for politicians, because then you'd be on the 6 o'clock news with like some reporter holding up a piece of paper saying this is clearly a lie. Now you can either, like you see very frequently now, parties or party leaders not responding to requests for an interview or not showing up on a morning report type thing, and not really suffering any kind of electoral or type penalty for it. So at a certain point you go, well, we can just say whatever we want, and the truth is what we say it is, reality is what we make it, which is obviously like the Trump lesson we were talking about before. But I think it's ultimately becomes true from anyone with a devoted audience, and now a suspicion of anyone who might seek to kind of ask questions of that politician or party.
And I think, like, if you're saying, that political parties and politicians all sort of have the institution that they pick on or distrust or promote distrust around. I mean, the thing is that the Greens might have, theoretically say it's Treasury, right? They can't build another Treasury. Whereas if it's the media, they can build another media.
Yeah, and they all have their own channels, and they have a powerful incentive to build those channels. Yeah, it's just getting weird out there.
It's very weird. I think I said to you via email around something that I was weirdly at peace with this current era. I mean, I'm definitely not, but I do feel myself becoming a bit more pragmatic about it, rather than feeling like I'm going to die under the weight of the sort of stress and anxiety of watching it all. I don't know. Maybe that's nihilism. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it might be. but I mean, look, it just gets hard. The centre will not hold and all that. It gets hard to sort of maintain your own kind of personal, your institution's values when they're under attack. And honestly, as I think needs to be made clear every time, the media is not blameless. We've made mistakes. We will continue to. There are decisions we made in the aggregate and individually and at an institution level over the past few years, which you can have legitimate complaint about. It's just about how good faith and how frequent those complaints are.
And I think just to like circle back to the very opening around this Epstein thing, there is a thing that I wonder with the New York Times covering it and the kind of bipartisan stuff that's happening there, whether that in fact is a nod towards the fact that a bunch of people got left behind, or a bunch of people have been left behind, and they got angry enough about it to vote in Donald Trump not once but twice.
Well, and you think about the inversion of it, right? Like what, just to kind of, I love the New York Times, I read it all the time. I just don't think that should have been leading the site. But if it hadn't, and, people had gone to the New York Times and seen that the Epstein story was everywhere else but not there, then it just serves to reinforce their idea that they're hiding something here. So you're just kind of mega fucked every way, I think, is the reality. The JC Billboard Network delivers quality reach via commanding sites to ensure your campaign is visible and impactful. With superior screen quality and premium locations, JC can help your campaign be seen and be remembered. Visit www.beseenberemembered.co.nz to learn more. Should we talk about something else?
Yeah, please.
Do you want to just recap the astronomer? See, I've never heard of this company, but this was...
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I hadn't heard of the company either, but I have now been deeply steeped in what has happened. So essentially, the CEO of Astronomer, a company, was at a Coldplay concert. They had the big Jumbotron camera, Kiss Cam thing, pans around the stadium. And the shot that it caught was him embracing a woman. Just happened to turn out that the woman was his HR manager. She is married to somebody else. He is married to somebody else. So essentially their affair was outed via Kiss Cam at a Coldplay concert.
And Chris Martin, caught it
Chris-
not just saw it, but diagnosed immediately what was going on there.
100%.
If they just held it together, no one ever talks about this.
Well,
knows about this.
I'm telling you now, whatever take you're looking for, it's there in it 1,000-fold online. So I have seen, I don't even know how many TikToks and Reels around it. I think it's almost at, I love me an internet life cycle story. I think it's almost at the point where we're now talking about the fact that everybody is too surveilled. Cameras are everywhere.
I saw that.
We can't do anything in private. What a bunch of moralizing, puritanical freaks. The guys, I think, resigned from the company. Their LinkedIn profiles have disappeared. I mean, this happened in 48 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Once a sort of situation like this reaches terminal velocity, every single take that could be took has been taken.
It has been taken. I've seen brands going hard on it, and then I've seen brands getting, slapped for going hard on it and been calling out for. I mean, it's just got everything.
Yeah.
If you pick your poison on this one, it's out there.
This is the monoculture now, right? It's that's
the single moments that you hear around the world,
which are properly inescapable. Lucy Blackiston has been signed by the William Morris Agency, the oldest, most venerable kind of talent agency in Hollywood.
Yeah, I just hear old Hollywood every time someone says William Morris Agency.
Well, I just read Barry Diller's autobiography.
Yeah.
Where he's this amazing kind of media genius who he started at William Morris and then went to ABC, invented the movie of the week, then went and ran Paramount and released just every blockbuster of the 80s basically, and then created Fox, the TV channel, and commissioned The Simpsons. This guy's his CV is crazy. But he reckons that his whole career came about because he was put in the mailroom of WME and read the entire archives. So every single contract they'd ever had with any, from the silent film era onwards. And so, which does sound like a pretty good Hollywood education, but quite an amazing thing for, someone from Blenheim who, friend of the podcast, who created a blog, then an Instagram channel, and then a Substack to be signed to, the most vulnerable talent agency in the world. Really interesting to see, what I've always thought with Lucy, part of her, what makes her so great is also what makes her challenging is because there's all these things she won't do, and for a talent agency, they'll have to work around that, and that will be the most interesting part is that could be a weakness, could also be a strength. The fact that there's this kind of fundamental integrity and desire to operate in a particular rail.
I also just think, and I guess this is me trying to pull back a little bit, obviously knowing Lucy, but there is kind of a moment at the moment.
That works though.
Oh my God. For young women, for young creators who have got something non-kind of generic or idiosyncratic about themselves. I look at Amelia, Chicken Shop Dates, Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy, Lucy, Meg Salter and her kind of breakout in the Lena Dunham Netflix show. I do think there is this thing where they're like, nah, fuck it, we're going to make our own destiny. And right now, that is absolutely where the eyeballs are at.
Well, it's almost like an inversion of the kind of manosphere. It's like we need a coinage for that. But it's kind of a sort of slightly messy, certainly unapologetic woman's perspective on the world that feels like it operates in kind of isolation from the kind of freaky shit that's going on over there, and if Lucy can become a part of that, then that seems like a force for good in this world. Lastly, tell me about Now You Know.
I will, so that everybody can know. So Now You Know is a short form vertical video explainer series that we launched at the spin-off last week. It is specifically aimed at 18 to 24-year-olds. And
if you're 25 and you can watch it, but just understand it's not for you, and we make no apologies for that.
Look, I keep approaching it with the age thing because obviously I am not 18 to 24, but the fact that there are a lot of grandparents doing good shit on TikTok, right? So the vertical video is not just for the young people, but this series is essentially addressing what we know about where people are getting their news. And that latest Reuters report into digital news and journalism, 18 to 24-year-olds in the US, social media and vertical video is now where half of them are getting their news, right? So we know that it's meeting audiences where they are. I think most excitedly, we've got Robbie Nicol at the helm as our new video journalist. He is known to people. He's a trusted face. He's really funny.
He's really funny. I mean, his explainer on how to make an explainer, which I think was only intended for internal audiences, was one of the best things I've seen in a while.
It was very meta. I mean, last week he closed out the week doing one around climate change and extreme weather, and the man did the most.
It gets wet.
He got wet. Well, really good. So we're very excited about it. We think it'll be great. You can watch it on the spin-off's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, on the site. It's basically anywhere and everywhere you can watch the video. We are there explaining the news.
Sounds excellent. And unlike everything else on those channels, this can be trusted. But actually, one of my favorite things, just as like a boring journalist, was like looking at the processes around this and the fact that scripts have to be approved by you and Toby. I was like, yes, that's right. You can have your jokes, but you've also got to have like a system to make sure that the jokes don't cross the line.
Yeah, we just had a 15-minute conversation about approval processes. So we're still, we're out there.
Come in the studio for that next time. Let's give the people what they want.
We're out there, but we're still making sure that it is good, truthful information.
There's nothing better, is there? Thank you so much, Anna. Really appreciate you and UTI here for recording two of these back to back. Fun.
Thanks for having me.
Great times out here. Seeing is not enough. With optimized data tools and insights, the JC2Co Billboard network helps brands be remembered. Dedicated to closing the loop between impression and action, JC2Co can help your campaign be seen and be remembered. Visit www.beseenberemembered.co.nz to learn more.